looks like they're nearly ready to race. In the pit bike veterans, flag is up. And we're underway, and a good start for second place James Osborne there. It looks like he's managed to get into the lead. And they make their way cleanly through the first few corners. So leading the way is Mark Evans. And we still don't have live times on the screen for you, but we'll let you know shortly. As they come across the line, it's Mark Evans in the lead, followed by James Osborne. Then so it's as you were from the start of the race. Mark Evans leading, followed by James Osborne, and then John Robinson, the number 2 bike, in 3rd place, and Simon Gates 4th, as they make their way round the back of the circuit, rounds 6 at the front, turn 6 and 7, and onto the back straight. So it's Mark Evans, and right on his tail is James Osborne, and he looks like he's good. Tries down the inside, but can't find his way through there. And close racing throughout the field, as well as in the lead. So it's Mark Evans, James Osborne, John Robinson and Simon Gates in 4th place, Darren Savage 5th, Richard Barnes 6th, Richard Rice 7th, and then Dan Hayes in 8th place, Chris Blowfield in 9th, and Barry Prue rounding out the top 10.
Mark Evans having a quick look around the back there, but I don't think Simon's close enough on this corner, on this lap.
Mark Evans very closely followed by James Osborne as they go around turn 3 and 4. And James Osborne right on his tail, going into one of the overtaking zones. There we go, we've got the times on the screen now, so you can see Mark Evans, and less than barely half a tenth between him and James Osborne in 2nd place, John Robinson 3rd, Simon Gates in 4th place. So the front two very close together as they cross the timing line.
He's got through.
James Osborne.
Oh, he's down. Simon's down.
Simon Gates has come off his bike there?
No.
No?
It's James Osborne.
James Osborne, sorry. Flag because of that incident down at the first corner, I think. Although it looks as though he's got going again. Oh no, he's come round and he's come off the track. And Simon Gates looking like he's out of this race. There you see him in the background. Simon Gates trying to get started, but it looks like his race is over. And the marshals with him. So back out in front, it's Mark Evans. And there's not a car close behind him. So it's Mark Evans first and Jason Robinson then in second. I was trying to see what's happened to... So no battle for lead at the moment. Mark Evans clear of the field after seemingly Matt Hancock and James Osborne both having problems. Mark Hancock rather. The interesting battle at the moment is for 6th with Richard Rice followed by Chris Blowfield, and then Dan Hayes, Barry Prue, Pete Forsyth, all separated by a couple of seconds. There's actually 5 riders within a second of each other, from Richard Rice down to Barry Prue, within half a second. There it is on the screen. So they're out in front. Number 22 is the battle for 6th place. So Richard Rice very closely followed. There's about 2 seconds separating them.
So in that battle as well. And they're just coming to a back marker now. Rice is clean past the back marker. They're all through.
As the leader makes his way onto the final lap, Mark Evans ahead of John Robinson, and then close behind John Robinson, Simon Gates. 4th place now, Richard Barnes in the Vet Open. The group of cars all close together, from Richard Rice down to Pete Forsyth rather. That's from 6th down to 9th place. Separated by just over a second.
It just shows that we are battling all the way through the field.
And the winner comes across the line, takes the checkered flag.
The high side on the last corner.
Mark Evans nearly lost it, and then
Literally did the high side because he came across the line.
John Robinson 2nd place. Simon Gates takes 3rd. Richard Barnes crosses the line in 4th. And behind him, Darren Savage. Now the battle that they're all going for. And as they come across the line, it's Richard Rice and Darren Savage in 5th, Richard Rice 6th, Dan Hayes 7th, Chris Blowfield in 8th, Pete Forsyth 9th, and Barry Prue in 10th place, Paul Ward 11th. And some great action in the Pit Bike Veterans Race 1. Bike Vets coming out onto the grid. And it's Mark Evans on pole with James Osborne alongside him. The 2nd row is John Robinson and Simon Gates. 5th place is Richard Barnes on the 3rd row with Darren Savage. And then Julian Gromit, who wasn't cleared to race earlier, and we don't think he's in this one either, is he? No. So then it's Dan Hayes, followed by Richard Rice, Chris Blowfield, Paul Ward in 11th, and Pete Forsyth, definitely Pete, despite what it says on the screen, in 12th position. Barry Prue 13th, Andy Williams 14th, and Steve Allen, the number 5th in 15th position. Leslie Noble 16th, and 17th is Simon Woodward and Gary Carter in 18th for the Pit Bike Veterans. On the grid now for their 2nd race of the day, and it's Mark Evans on pole. The number 161 on the left of your screen. The green flag's up. Marshall steps aside. And they go, and it's a bad start for Mark Evans. It looks like James Osborne got into the lead there. And I think John Robinson got past as well.
This will be interesting because Mark and John love a battle. So when Mark gets on the back of John to make some interesting footage.
It was a very poor start for the pole man, Mark Evans.
I think he put a bit of a wheelie, trying to do some stunting instead of pit bike racing.
So there's our leader. That's bike number 70, James Osborne. As they go around turns 6 and 7 onto the back straight. And despite what it says on the timing screen, that's not correct. It's not John Robinson in the lead. It is James Osborne, the number 70. It says he's down in 15th, but he is leading this race at the moment. As they come up to the back of the circuit. So there we go, round long right-hander, that's turn 5. And the man in the lead, bike number 70. And he's followed, I think it's Mark Evans in second.
Yeah, Mark Evans in second.
So he's got back up after his problems at the start. And they come across the line now. Just a reminder that the timing line is on the back straight due to problems earlier, so the race finishes on the back straight, but they start on the pit straight just after. And we'll try and get the timing screen back up shortly. But in the lead, James Osborne, closely followed by Mark Evans.
John Robinson is still in third position, followed by Dan Hayes.
So there we go, the front two coming to cross the line. It's James Osborne, closely followed by Mark Evans as they go into the last corner. And Mark trying to get down the inside, but not quite managing it. So there you can see the numbers on the front, 70 and 161. So that's James Osborne ahead of Mark Evans.
I think James got a problem with his transponder. He doesn't seem to pick it up, but we know he's out in the lead. We just saw it as Mark was coming down the start straight. We had Matt Bolsover on the pit wall, just telling him to calm down, settle in.
And we've got the timings back for you now. So it's James Osborne in the lead from Mark Evans. Third is John Robinson. Fourth, Dan Hayes. Behind him in fifth place is Richard Evans, and sixth is Chris Blowfield. So the gap between the two at the front is just over 0.4 of a second. James Osborne ahead of Mark Evans as they go onto the pit straight and into turn 1, the fast right-left chicane. Just coming up to the halfway point of this race, there's 5 laps to go.
And I can just see out the commentary box, Dan Hayes is having a real look at John. Went to go down the inside of that chicane, and they're just coming across the left-hander over the crest of the hill. I don't think it's close enough to make a move down into this left-hander now, coming to the finish straight, but I think he's going to have a look down the inside.
Dan Hayes, who qualified in 8th place on the grid.
There's
your leader.
He's not close enough to make a move down in the finish straight.
So James Robinson still leads ahead of Mark Evans, and then John Robinson third.
And looking further down the field, I can see that Richard Rice having a good battle with Barry Prue. But in there we've got Paul Ward and Pete Forsyth as well. I think they're battling at the moment for that 7th and 8th at the moment, down to about 9th, 10th.
There you can see the leaders, James Osborne and Mark Evans, going around the final corner. James Osborne in front. And he leads by around about 7 or 8 tenths, it looks like there.
Oh, that was out of the comments box. I saw Pete Forsyth trying to get down the inside of. That was like Steve Allen, and he had a massive moment coming to the corner before the finish straight, and then lost the front end. He's lost his place there to Paul Ward going down the start straight.
But there could have been so much more. He'll count himself lucky there. So here we go. The front two coming across the line again, and still James Osborne in the lead, ahead of Mark Evans. Mark Evans 161, and then John Robinson in third place. He's about 5 seconds off the pair in front, but he's got a big buffer of 4.2 seconds over Dan Hayes in fourth. Richard Barnes is fifth. Chris Blowfield in sixth. Richard Rice seventh. Barry Prue in eighth, and behind him Steve Allen and Pete Forsyth round out the top 10.
I think Mark's going to have to start pushing on now. He's going to run out of laps.
We've got 2 remaining at Lydd. We're just about to see. Looks like
a flag.
Checkered flag's being brought out, and they're waving it now. So across the line comes James Osborne, and he takes the win from Mark Evans.
That's John Robinson in third and Daniel Hayes in fourth.
Dan Hayes very close behind, but the winner there, James Osborne. So Dan Hayes crosses the line 4th place, Richard Barnes in 5th. And now across the line, Chris Blowfield, followed by Barry Prue and Richard Rice and Barry Prue, so that's 7th and 8th. Steve Allen in 9th, Pete Forsyth takes the checkered flag in 10th, Paul Ward 11th, Andy Williams